November 180 Bravo Bravo, good afternoon to you. Report your altitude?
2,000 feet on 1014, Bravo Bravo.
Bravo Bravo.
Hello YouTube, Wycliffe Barrett here. Today we're going to TNCM by AW Designs. This is available from Xplane.org. It costs $32.95, £23.09 or €26.65. I'll put the prices up on the screen somewhere in a little while, but here we are. We're in the Dutch Antilles. We're flying into San Martin, TNCM. This scenery is staggering. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. This scenery is one of the premier packages for Xplane 11. I think it works in Xplane 10 as well. There is a aerial shot of the island, and something that I didn't know until I did some research is that there is a Dutch side and a French side. And the reason why the airport is called Princess Juliana is it's named after Princess Juliana, who visited there in 1944. She was the presumptive queen of the Netherlands at that time. Anyway, the scene is created by use of on-site photography references, and although a couple of people on Facebook have been a little bit cruel and said, oh, it's not wholly accurate because everything is destroyed, it is accurate as to what it did look like before the storm. Anyway, I think that to create the airport after the storm would be really unfair and not a very nice thing to do. But anyway, so this is what it looks like before the storm, and you will be pleased to know that they are rebuilding. In fact, the airport was open a few days later after the storm. I can't remember the exact date, but I did do some research and saw that. Anyway, looking at this aerial photography here, the photo scenery is absolutely brilliant. Now this is part 1 of 2. I'm not quite sure what you're going to get with 2, but it is in the readme notes. I think it's going to just further create the islands in the Dutch Antilles in the Caribbean. Anyway, the photo scenery is really good from a couple of thousand feet. When you get lower, we have that horrible situation where it begins to pixelate. But as you can see here, I'm in the Cessna just flying to TFFG, which is the second airport on the island and which is on the French side. Princess Juliana is on the Dutch side, TFFG is on the French side, and really is only for GA aircraft, maybe some, maybe you'd be lucky if you get a twin otter in there, but you know, that airport is probably used more for island hopping rather than anything else. Anyway, it looks absolutely superb. The scenery is brilliant. The vegetation is really, really well done. I rather like this, and if you're going to be doing some flights to the Caribbean, well then why not go into Princess Juliana? Last year, I think it was over 1.5 million passengers went into the island. Of course, you've got the very famous bar down by the beach there where you can sit and drink a margarita or a pina colada and watch the aircraft come in. The area of coverage is San Martin Island, Princess Juliana and Grand Case airports, and that's where we're flying into now, Grand Case Airport, and the island of Anguilla, which is all photo scenery. There's a custom mesh has been developed for this. As you can see, it's very accurate. It matches runway slopes as per the AIP and terrain modifications to give the most realism possible to the scenery, and you can see that here. You do have to run this with airport contours on, so if you're going to fly here, make sure you turn your contours on. The satellite photo is 50 centimeters per pixel, and resolution is licensed from Airbus, so obviously Airbus have had something to do with this. There's custom ground textures over 10 pixels per centimeter nearby the airport surroundings. There's high definition buildings which are all custom built. The famous Maho Beach has been rendered with HD textures and PBR shading, of course, which offers reflections, etc. You can see some of these reflections here as we go past this glass wall. Very nice indeed. Just taking a drive around the airport, just a little bit of a lazy drive around. I did manage to get myself lost and I couldn't find my way out of the airport onto the roads. Maybe I should have checked the charts, but you know, when you're driving around, you just want to drive around. You can see these buildings here, all very nicely done. They're weathered concrete down to, you know, down towards the floor, where you would expect rain to accumulate and what have you. So you know, concrete gets that weathered look down there. There's people hanging around, although there is no flow people, so you don't see people walking about. But you know, it's really well done. You know, the buses they're accurate for the area out there in the Caribbean. It's got custom night lighting, of course, and there's realistic apron lighting, matching colours and light intensity of the real airport. So they've done an awful lot of work, AW Designs, in producing this. One thing I am glad to see, that there is no 3D grass, because as you well know, if you're going to do 3D grass, you've got to get it right. If you don't get it right, it can look pretty shoddy. So they haven't bothered with 3D grass, although the vegetation around the island in terms of tree foliage is completely accurate. We've got palm trees here, and they're not just straight palm trees. You'll see that they're bent slightly, bit of a bump in the road there. So it's 3D people in trees. There are terminal interiors, but it's a little bit patchy in some areas. You know, there'll be like a transparent floor above you or what have you. I do like the crash barrier there on the left hand side. So you've got Arco crash barriers protecting the runway perimeter, the airport perimeter fence. All very good. As we come up to the San Martin sign here, which is really cleverly done. Overall, I think this scenery is top notch. Once again, it puts itself in that top 10% of airport sceneries that are coming out. AW Designs have come to the party, and I think we'll all be very pleased with this. Now, on initial release, there were some issues. Some people were saying that they were having terrible FPS, terrible frame rates, and not long after that, a version 1.1 patch was brought out, and what that produced was 2K textures. So there's 4K textures and 2K textures. Now, one of my colleagues said to me, please make sure that you mention the frames per second. So on my machine, there is no significant hit with FPS. I flew around this airport with some scattered clouds and rain, and as you can see here, it's quite clear. I've cleared the weather up so we get a better view of the colours. It's when you fly it, when it's overcast, it changes the colour of everything. So I brightened the weather up, but I've flown in scattered cloud with showers, and I've flown in bright sunlight, VFR conditions, and I have to say there's been no hit whatsoever on FPS for me. Now, I have a i7 4770 processor, so my processor is getting a little bit old now, but it's an i7, it's quite robust. I have 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I have an NVIDIA GTX 1080, not a 1080 Ti, just a 1080. So that is the specification of my machine. My hard drives that I use are just normal spinny hard drives, 10,000 RPM on these hard drives, and there is no FPS hit for me, and I'm using the 4K textures. Okay, if you have anything less than that, then you may have issues with settings. In other words, you may have to adjust your settings so that you get a sim over TNCM that you want. Okay, all I can tell you is that I have no FPS hits, but that my machine is quite robust. It's an i7 with 32 gig of RAM and a NVIDIA GTX 1080. So my suggestion is that you check the specifications quite closely, the required specification for this scenery. Check that very closely and make sure that you match that. I did read on one of the Facebook forums, somebody was complaining about 7 frames per second, but they had they were on an i5 processor with only, I think they only had 2 gig of RAM, and they only had 2 gigabytes of video RAM on the graphics card. So as good as Xplane is, when you put in complex scenery, you really do need a better processor, more RAM, and a better graphics card. So you need to take those things into consideration before you even consider buying this. As you see, as we're flying over there, you can see there is a few issues with tree placement, but trees going into the road there. But when you're placing hand-drawn trees, it can be problematic. It's very fine detail work, and you do really need to have a good look at that. So as we head towards across the island there. We're above the runway, and we're just going down over the island. The scenery is really quite breathtaking. And the other thing that I've noticed, and it's one of those things that you kind of don't realise until you actually look very closely. You know, the buildings are accurate for the region. You know, they've got red roofs as opposed to you know, grey slate as common in Europe and the UK. So there's red roofs, which are probably more accurate for, you know, the Caribbean region. Some flat roof buildings as well. You know, you've got marinas. See here the photo scenery. When you're a little bit low, it kind of pixelates, and this is an issue. And I think, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing scenery where the photo scenery does not pixelate at low level. Now, I think that, you know, the only restriction about that is going to be in terms of size of the scenery. You know, when you get to, you know, high definition resolution at low levels, then I think probably it's the size of the scenery that's going to be an issue. This bridge here that comes away from TNCM to the main area of the island, really nice bridge, but unfortunately it's blended pretty poorly at the ends. You know, it goes from one thing to another, and you can't drive on it, which is unfortunate. I did try driving on it and just ended up going straight into the water. So you can't drive on the road, it's not solid enough, which is a bit of a pity, really. Anyway, we're coming up to 12 minutes of talking from me. I don't know if there's very much more I can say about this scenery. As I say, it's really well done. You can fly almost any aircraft into here. I think certainly the 747 lands here on a regular basis. I think probably the A340 as well. So, you know, you've got a huge range of aircraft you can fly into TNCM. Lots of regional aircraft as well, CRJs and twotters or twin otters that can go in and out of TNCM from the other islands. So if you don't want to do a long haul flight, you can fly from, you know, one of the other islands that are close by, Jamaica, Cuba, you know, get yourself into an MD-80 or even a 737 or an Airbus A320 if you don't want to do long haul. Here's the front of the terminal, very well realised. If you get yourself a real picture of TNCM, you'll see that that is really well done. As we said, you know, we do know that the island has taken a battering with that storm, and hopefully in the near future that will all sort itself out. So I've just taken the PA-28 up just for a quick hop around here, just have a look around the island. Absolutely fabulous. You'll also notice, of course, that the sea has been textured for the Caribbean, so it's got that, you know, beautiful green colour, blue where it's in the shallows. You know, as you can see there to the right there, that beautiful blue colour as the sea comes up the beach and the surf comes up the beach there. Coming over to the French side of the island again, you can see the vegetation, the trees all over the place, and unfortunately I forgot, I'm sorry, I do apologise, forgot to put any night shots in here. I was so enraptured by the colours. That jerkiness that you just saw then, that was me just scrolling around the aircraft with my mouse, so that's why it looked a little bit jerky there. There's nothing to do with frames or anything like that, or stuttering. As you can see, it's smooth flight, no problems whatsoever. So once again, it's $32.95 from xplane.org, and that works out at £23.09. And if you're going to buy it in euros, it's €26.65. Is it worth it? Yes, I think it is, but the decision is yours, not mine. If I was going to rate this one, I think I'm going to give this a kind of 8.5 out of 10. I don't like scoring things, but once in a while. So I'd say this was 8.5 out of 10. It does look absolutely gorgeous when you look at it from above, as you can see here with some of these screenshots that I've taken. My advice, if you can, buy it. But don't forget, check the specification of your machine against the specification of the scenery. Otherwise you might find yourself not being able to fly here because your frame rates are too low. Once again, this is Wycliffe Barrett, Xplane Dedicated. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Smash the like button, gives me a thumbs up. It's all helps. Take care. Cheerio.